Nothing. Absolutely nothing. My fingers didn't fall off. My joints didn't shatter. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is Scott K. Yes, I typed on a stiff, sandwich-mounted DR-70F for a week. And it was an enjoyable experience, honestly. Look, I still have my hands and fingers all intact, right? But I thought stiff keyboards kidnapped yo kids and killed all the dolphins, right? I heard that if you hit a key too hard on a stiff keyboard, a koala falls off the tree to its death. No? That's not right? Well, of course it's not. Some time ago, most boards were stiff. That was like the norm. Now, unless it's like bouncy, people don't want it anymore. Well, let me tell you, some like it soft, some like it hard. It's all about preference. Well, this DR-70F can go from soft to hard. Okay, now it's getting a little weird. So let's get started. So the DR-70F is actually from a studio called Daring Run, who is a subset of Win Studio. Yes, that Win Studio, you know? The X65, the X98, the Z75. Interestingly enough though, it does look very close to another keyboard. Did you catch that? Anyways, of all things interesting about this keyboard here, there actually are three major things that you may want to consider. First of all, it can go left and it can go right. So if you have a specific preference on which way you like to swing, the DR-70F can satisfy that need. Next, the DR-70F can go soft or go hard. Yes, it's 2024 and no one will be insane enough to put out a keyboard that isn't gasket mounted. So the DR-70F can do that. However, Daring Run also wanted to be daring, so they made the secondary option, a sandwich mount design. With that, this thing can go pretty stiff, but not like in a terrible bad way. I will cover that later. Finally, pair it up with the right switch and this thing is loud and proud, like a machine gun. I think Daring Run knew this and they put these open slots below, kind of like a speaker or a subwoofer design. And hear this, the DR-70F is a good keyboard, like I would recommend this keyboard, especially given that its price is actually at $139. Alright, so the keyboard is a bit unconventional, which means like the components itself, they're also going to be unconventional, right? Let's take a look at the PCB for example. I mean, at first glance, it looks pretty normal, right? Black PCB, 1.6mm standard thickness, south-facing hot swap sockets, but then BAM! Yes, there are three segments, and one of them is small, and the other one is more small, like small, and they're connected together by ribbon cables. This also means that the plate is also like that. You got the three different sizes here. But if you gasket mount this thing, in that situation, you will use these pretty interesting looking trapezoidal gaskets. Pay attention to the direction though when you install these. The little notch ones on the, they actually go on the top and it mounts via the PCB. But if you decide to go with like the stiffy mount, right, you go with this, the giant monster plate, which is aluminum in this case. It's gold, so I thought it was bronze, but it's aluminum. Then everything is held together by this plate and it's like dropped into the case like this. And then the sandwich between the upper and lower case, hence, that's why it's called a sandwich mount. Let's move on to the interesting layout of the DR-70F. Yes, it has like the center segment that looks like, like a 60% keyboard, right? Then you got the section with like the navigation cluster, which means like arrows and keys and stuff like that, right? Then you got this macro strip up to like 5 keys or function keys if you need that, F1 through F5. And yes, you can flip this one way or another and put it on the right or the left. It depends on your need and it's based on your preference, honestly. The overall shape of the case is very minimal, like a candy bar design, right? And in my opinion, it's pretty attractive because of that. There isn't that many embellishments other than like this little light strip here. I think mine's faulty because only half of it lit up. And also the mid frame that cuts like the two sides of the case like in half, right? Like if you sandwich mount it, the plate itself becomes that center divider. And if you gasket mount it, there's like an actual mid frame piece that you put in. Below you have this nice little brass weight segment right here. Very clean. Inside of the case reveals some more surprises of the DR-70F. You can tell that the two inner covers are there for batteries if you decide to go with the wireless PCB. The one I have is a standard wired. And yes, the slots. Yes, this keyboard is probably one of the first keyboard designs, at least I've seen, that has an opening below. Like, I wonder if it's because it has something to do with the sandwich mount, but it does remind me of like speakers or subs that allows for the air to move around. Typically, if you open up the case like this, you can help reduce some of that muddiness in sound. I don't know, maybe that's what they did that, right? Speaking of sound, we should probably head there, right? Well, before we do, let's go to a quick word from our sponsor today, PCBWay. PCBWay is an online service that helps you print PCBs, do 3D printing, or even CNC machining. If you're an aspiring keyboard designer or whatever else designer, you can take your design and simply upload it to get something made quick. Or, if you have the source code for a PCB that you already have and you need a replacement, you can also get that done as well. They can handle all types of PCBs from your simple single layer designs to multi-layer stacks. Beyond PCBs, if you want to try making your own case, PCBWay can machine that as well. Now, a very exciting new service that PCBWay offers, OEM. Instead of just making a single component, you can actually task PCBWay to be an OEM manufacturer and make the whole thing. They can do anything from PCBs to CNC cases to even assembly. And using global manufacturing, they can offer very competitive prices. Is there a keyboard on the horizon? Well, check out OEM at PCBWay. So for the first build, I will go with the ever popular gasket mount. Yes, the soft one. And since this one is supposed to be like the trendier build, we're gonna shove all the foam inside it. Yeah, you know, like the case foam, the plate foam, the PE foam. And for the switches, I decided to go with some stock Kinetic Labs Voyager Tactiles. These tactiles are actually pretty smooth and they sound really good even without hand moving, right? I'm just using them stock and I didn't really have time, so this was like the perfect application. Anyways, you know, for a while I was like, where will I ever use these brown and tan keycaps at? The DCX Latte. Then this came along and bam, now I got a good looking brown keyboard. I think this is the first brown keyboard I have. Never thought I'd say that in one sentence, but hey, here we are. And yes, as you would expect, the gasket mounted keyboard, the gasket mounted configuration for the DR-70, it's soft and flexible. But what about the sound? Well, you got a teaser before, but here's the full one. Yeah, that is one poppy, loud and proud keyboard. Like, I can tell you, it's like prominently loud. I was surprised how much pop it had as well. Like, front and center, punch to your face kind of pop. I think this sounds better than like half the $300+ keyboards out there, at least the ones I've seen. Is it the little sound slots? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But what about the other build? You know, the one you came to see. Like the one you thought shattered my fingers based on the thumbnail you saw. I know, that's what you probably thought you'd see, right? Some busted up hands. Well, no busted up hands today. At least not because of keyboards anyways. So like I said, you can do the sandwich mount like with this giant plate. And overall installation is even simpler since it just kind of like screws in all together without putting on the gaskets on the tabs and laying it in and anything like that. Same configuration here with the Voyagers and the Latte Keycaps. And no, you won't get a flexy bouncy keyboard like this. It's definitely stiff, but not like tray mounted tofu with brass plates kind of stiff. It's like closer to like a classic top mount stiff, if you know what I mean, right? Maybe a little bit stiffer than a top mount. But you know what? It makes up for it with its sound. I built this one with minimal foam, just like the plate foam. I put it in there because the plate was so big and I'm like, what if it starts to reverb? I don't think it needs it, but I threw it in there anyways. And one more thing. So the design of the DR-70 uses these tiny little silicone bumpers on like the sides of the plate. I guess it's designed to like dampen the plate itself and probably create a force break effect between the top and the bottom. It does make the keyboard sound more crisp and clean. However, I actually liked it without it, so I took them out for my build, right? So hey, let's check it out. Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Pure, unadulterated sound. You hear the plate, the uppercase, the lowercase all joined together into one giant metal piece, and a little sound slot on the bottom. I feel like it was designed for this build in mind, honestly. Probably, I don't know if it does anything, but you know, I would like to think that it does. You can probably guess it, but this is my preference. It sounds deep and big. This is how I will be keeping my configuration. So the DR-70F, it's not a conventional keyboard per se. And given that most keyboards these days have become pretty conventional and normalized, this thing, at least to me, stands out in a lot of different ways. Plus the fact that it's like an in-stock keyboard and it's $139 and it's backed by a proven brand, right? Win Studio. Honestly, the sub $200 space is so hot right now with like the likes of this, the Zooms, the QKs, the Neos, the Gyris, and the list goes on and on. This is one of those keyboards that you can't really go wrong with in my opinion. At least that's my opinion. Well, catch you in the next one.